He's dependent upon traffic, whatever else
Alright.
happens on the way here from there.
Holden.
6 is always his tough time.
Holden, Paxton.
We have some minutes to go, to do anyway, you wanna do those first.
Did anybody see the article in March 26 Telegram about recycling?
Sorry, I can't hear you, Kat.
Did anybody see the article in March 26 Telegram, is that about recycling? Right, did you?
Nope.
I made some copies if you want to look at them.
I read that.
I didn't see it, so I'd like a copy,
You
please.
saw it, Mark?
I did.
Oh. Just interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I did see it.
Hi.
Read 'em.
Kathy just handed this out. Okay, I got the email, I tried to respond, but like, can't respond back, I don't know if he gets it, so it's okay.
Yeah, it hit the road like, just before it hit the road, like, I'm running late.
Thank you for that.
It actually went.
No, that's not, yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a minute to reorganize.
Yes. Well, did you get sworn in? Did you get sworn in? Okay. So let's reorganize.
We'll make a motion for chairman.
You wanna make one quick, Joe?
Made a motion for me to be chairman.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye. Gonna make a motion for Joey, vice chair. Second it, all in favor? Aye. And then we'll make Kurt clerk. I'll make a motion for Kurt to be clerk.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Let's get on to gotta read this recycling industry here. All right, gentlemen. Did they get a copy of the contract?
The proposal, did you, get emailed from Andrew, the proposal that was submitted for solid waste? He sent that to you Thursday, correct?
I didn't get an email, but all I remember seeing was he gave an email giving a synopsis of the contract, not a copy of the contract.
Not the contract, the proposal. What's solid
Oh,
waste?
right.
What solid waste?
That's what I thought
Yeah,
I
that's-
saw was just a synopsis of what it contained.
Right, so it's what solid waste submitted to us for a proposal. They get email, you guys don't get
No.
children.
I got these.
Did you get it, Greg?
Yeah, it was sent Thursday from Andrew, I believe everybody was copied on it. I have a copy here if you want it. I just have my copy. I'll just take, that's their proposal. Okay,
So I have the attachment electronic.
okay, so do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gone through it with my phone, and I'm
No,
not.
that's okay, I just wanna make sure that, so anyway, that's why we're really here, is to,
I have a concern with that right now. The agenda was amended today for this, so this wasn't public notice that we were gonna be discussing this problem voting on it today. We're gonna talk about the transfer station, I understood, but we don't have proper public notice to discuss the RFPs and make a vote on that. And
Actually, it did get added late last week.
It says it was amended today.
It may have been amended again, but I do believe.
I read it before it came. It was
on
amended.
my
Right,
posting? Right,
It was
'cause
amended
Andrew-
from that to this today. which is-
right, Andrew posted, amended it when, last week, Thursday?
Yeah, he amended the
This
select
Thursday.
board's agenda.
Right.
To include the possibility, but.
But
I
that's,
don't know
but
if
the Board of Health posting is not,
I got
is
you.
not labeled for it, so I just,
Well, it was
Well,
amended this morning when I saw that he
I know,
amended it
but
Thursday.
The
So-
3 days is the 3 days, is all. It's not properly posted to discuss that, this board right now. So we can do it next week for that part. We can discuss the transfer station and stuff in general, just not the RFP.
Right, just not to vote to,
We can't discuss the RFP or vote on it today, right? But we can discuss the transfer station in general, like the talking about doing. The last time we had a meeting with the DPW commission, Jason, Charlie, and Matt were gonna arrange to talk to you guys about that. I just haven't gotten to do it yet, so.
They were to come to our last meeting.
Right, so if we haven't gotten that far yet, it's, you know.
No, our last meeting that all three were invited to, he showed. He was late, which was fine. And-
I was not invited once again. This is.
Yes, you were.
No,
You-
what happened was. the
He
day-
was, wait a minute.
The
Let
day
me
before we
answer
learned
his
we-
question
I
first.
didn't have a question.
This is my meeting. I'm the chair.
Understood,
And,
oh, okay.
okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
You
to
were
interrupt.
invited at the selectmen's meeting the night before our meeting. All three of you were invited to my meeting. It's in the minutes.
I've never received an email or an invite. time.
You were invited by me at that meeting.
Our last meeting, you were invited by the DPW.
That's all I got.
You said you were not gonna come, but Jason was gonna come, and Charlie and Matt, and nobody.
You didn't show up, Jason didn't show up. Okay, go ahead,
When
Matt.
was that?
What I believe, if I remember right, because of the timing, the last meeting where I showed up late was also the same meeting. What we were doing was we were discussing extending the old contract. And we found out the day before from Andrew that all his talk with the state was, we don't have the legal right to do that. So that's why when I got here late, you guys were already done with your meeting and walking out, because we
Right.
couldn't discuss
Right,
that
right.
topic. So that's what that meeting topic was about. It wasn't really about, what I thought this meeting got discussed for was, prior again to RFPs coming in, we originally thought we were coming before you to find out, as long as we continue to run at that time the parallel path of, if no RFP, we're gonna have to insource it, so what do we need from you, or what are you looking for, so we know that we're properly prepared, we're answering your questions, whether it's creating certain job assignments, certain organizational chart, better numbers to support the potential revenue, you know. I thought what we were coming here for is to say, to work with you appropriately.
Well, we
What
hope
do you
we
think
can.
we need internally so we can prepare and plan? Which I think we're gonna continue to prepare and plan anyway, no matter when this
When
day
it
might come.
happens. That's right.
Without speaking to this RFP, because timing, I think, was a rush, and Greg has even mentioned,
Right.
to try to take it on July 1st was a
It-
nightmare option.
Up until
That's
that
right.
DPW meeting, we didn't have any information to bring to you in a coherent manner yet, and that's why we had to wait till we discussed.
That's right, and that's why we said there's no way it could happen by the time this expired.
Oh, there's no doubt it could, but we'd rather not. And even
It would've
Andrew said,
been
there's no
far
doubt
from
you could
optimal.
do it, but why would you wanna rush through it and fumble into it when you can take a year to plan it? It's,
And so,
you know.
what I
Better
thought this
plan.
meeting was, again, prior to last Thursday and the RFPs coming in, was mostly focused on, as we continue to build a potential plan of what would it be like for us to insource. What are some of your bigger concerns, the things you think we need to make sure we have properly addressed, so that we can plan accordingly and not say, here's our plan, and then you look at it and say, well, this is so different than the direction you would have sought, that we're not starting over when we present it to you saying, here's our plan. So that's my understanding of generally what this first discussion was, is let's find out what the Board of Health really wants outside of like the RFP we write. What do you want with, if the town insources it, that group, division, department, whatever we wanna call it? How do they have to be documented as a department? Who do they answer to, who do they work for, do you have any input on this? And we've gotta take that input and then consider and figure out how it fits into the whole plan we're creating. You know, I'm guessing there's gonna be some things you want, the difference between want, need, things you want that maybe we don't, and then we're gonna have to continue to work back and forth on some things. But we need to know where you stand to start with. Otherwise, we're just constantly coming up with new things and realizing, I wish we just laid it out all on the table to begin with, and then developed a plan. And if we realize there's certain things that you were really concerned with, and we think we can approach it differently than you were requesting, we might want to talk to you before we just say, and this is how we're gonna do it. And so that's what I thought generally what this topic was gonna be more about. So we can try to incorporate what you think is needed, what you think is wanted. Wanted is a little bit more of like our procedures and who answers to who and things like that. I mean, needed is obviously, we gotta have, you know, certain licenses, insurance, whatever we need there. We need to make sure the person's coherent enough that's representing that group to work with you guys for all the regulatory requirements and the posting requirements and making sure that you're not getting some guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm not saying, because we've talked about it so generally, there's no detail yet. So if it went under DPW, it's likely that it would either be Jason or he would hire someone that's very specific to this, that can really be like the point person running the transfer station. And that person might be the one that comes to you guys when time is required to say, here's what I did to do this, here's what I did to do this. We want to do this, what do I have to do to do this?
All right.
You know, that's all I'm saying. So those are the things that I would like to know now, so if we do build a plan, we're incorporating your thoughts on it.
But you have to understand, right now, that's not costing the town a dime for them to be in there to take care of everything. Is about the recycling. I know E.L. Harvey, don't write that down, Brad, is getting stuff, they're so stacked up with plastics, and I'm not gonna say where it's going or anything, but it's being buried because they can't get rid of it. They have no more room for it. And what are we gonna do with it? We haven't got room to store all that stuff, and the market's never gonna come back on it. You think it is, that's Groton. This is Barre. We don't have the money in Barre that Groton has.
Groton doesn't help change the market on plastic at all.
No.
The market does.
Just,
recycle
Groton's
things.
got money, Barre don't. That's my thought.
Now Harvey just bought out.
Christoph and
Chris-
Sons. Yeah.
Sons are Christoph.
from the Chris. Now they came around last Thursday and Friday and were moving containers.
That's right.
You can't believe how fast they were moving containers. They bought 600 new containers.
Yeah, we got them at the shop too.
Yeah.
Because we had Christoph and Sons.
Right.
But it just, to me, right now, with the markets the way they are, it's not worth dealing with for the town of Barre. Let somebody else deal with it. We got somebody doing it for free, let it stay that way. And I haven't heard nobody really complain about the price of the stickers or the bags if you start checking around other towns.
No one's paying as much as we are for stickers.
What's that?
No one's paying the same as we are for stickers and bags anywhere. We're much higher price than most people. But the point is, when I started talking about maybe looking into the transfer station, because I had the misconception that there was good money in the revenues from the recycling stream, because years ago there was.
There used to be, and I'll grant you that.
And it does go in cycles, and the town of Groton, who has done this for many, many years, says, yes, it constantly fluctuates up and down, and it's at a low now. They will come back, but they're not yet. But what I found as I looked into this is the revenue here is in our trash stream. The money for the stickers and the money for the bags and the money for the pay-as-you-throw items, all of it, including the C&D, all this stuff makes a lot of money. And there's a considerable amount of revenue there for us. It's worthwhile for us to go after for source of revenue for the town.
Until the market comes back, then
If the market comes back, then there's more revenue in recycling.
then we could think about it.
But then there's extra money when the market comes back. Until it comes back, there's still money in the trash stream. And that's the point. I was very surprised when I looked into it, at the structure as it is now. If we took it over at those same prices, we'd stand to make, I don't remember the numbers, but we ran down the numbers on it. There's quite a bit of money in that. And if we also consider looking into outsourcing to other towns to try to get their trash stream in, I mean, everyone that buys a sticker, that's $100. less the cost of the sticker, which is trivial, but that's straight money. Every bag of trash that they put in the line, they pay $2 for. They cost us about 30 cents, and it costs us about 60 or 70 to dump it, so we make $1 off every bag that goes in. So if we could stop bringing our capacity down to around 20%, if we could get up at 40, 50, 60% capacity, we have the potential to bring in close to $500,000 to the town down there on trash. And so, yeah, we have to deal with the recycling. You can sell the metal, you can sell the aluminum and the metal. The tires we can sell and get a couple bucks for. You charge $5 and you just get rid of them for $2, you make a couple bucks on them. There's a lot of ways to make a little bit of money. And overall, the recycling, they're not gonna be a big winner, but they're not gonna be a loser either. If you have to pay to get rid of the plastics and pay to get rid of the glass, that'll eat up the money you get in the end of recycling. But the trash stream itself has demonstrated that there is a revenue there, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're leaving off the table. And this town could use another $100,000 to $200,000. We could really use it.
I don't
trying,
see it.
I'm trying, when we get into office, to look for ways to generate more revenues. And look for ways to generate revenues that aren't taxing anybody. Obviously, I talked about the possibility maybe of sales tax. People don't like that idea. I don't even know if that would be legal, but it was just a thought. When people don't like the idea, so we look for something else. You know, it's always real estate tax until you hit 2.5%, but we're already high enough. Who wants to pay more taxes? So
Nobody
we need to
does.
find ways to get revenues in. When we have the marijuana coming out, we said maybe we can get something on gross profits, and we shot down originally. Well, now that's back on the table. He's offering us 3%. There's a real revenue for us. And this is only like $30,000. This dump could make 5 times that on the trash. The trash is a real revenue. Look at the tonnage and look at the fees for stickers and bags. And the $65,000 cost to put a foreman-type person there, plus another $25,000 for 2 part-time helpers while the station's open to make sure stuff goes in the right places. Our overhead is minimal compared to the money that's gonna come in. And the trash stream alone will make money. But to try to jump and do it by July 1st is a real pain in the tush, because we'd like to have time to talk with you guys about how to set up the recycling to make it easy to manage, simple to manage, and simple to use and neat, and how to make it flow better so they can go from recycling to the metal and other places to throw stuff and out the back way and come up the hill for trash. So we can open recycling to people. Either, if it was money in the future, you open that for free to people. Otherwise, you make it part of the sticker for the recycling. You know, if 3 years from now recycling's making a ton of money, then hey, come dump your recycling for free. Just go to the back gate and you make money off it. But there's ideas of how to lay it out, ideas of where we want to go with it. Do we want to pack it? Do we want to not pack it? Do we want to bundle, you know, paper and cardboard separator is a huge difference. Paper is $70 a ton, and the cardboard's going for 110. And we don't separate that now. We should definitely separate those things. They're very valuable separated.
Who
Instead
would
of-
separate them? The residents or the transfer station?
Yeah, the residents, yeah. And that's the
Right,
idea.
containers.
Two
That's
just separate
right.
containers,
So
one
another
for
separate
cardboard,
container.
one for newspaper.
Right now, when you walk down, we have 2 paper containers, and one's full while you open the other. I mean, it's gonna take time, so you might spend 6 months just having them separated, and just bundle it as co-mingled anyways, because there's gonna be so much contamination back and forth. And that's what this article talks about, is contamination of plastic. But when the people learn to do it and they get efficient at it, it becomes more valuable for their own town. And it helps their own taxes, and people will have an incentive because of that. It hits them in the pocket. Separating glass, Groton does it by colors, and we have debates about to do color or not, because glass is worth less, literally. You pay to get rid of it. They grind it and they use it for fill or cover. You're not getting any money out of glass. So getting out of the stream is important because it brings down the value of the stream. Now the plastics, the clear plastics with twist-on caps like soda bottles, those are the ones you can sell. They're having trouble because people are not being careful when they separate. And those are more difficult to separate than your metals. Your metals, you put a magnet through the aluminum, the metal comes out. That's not hard. The plastic's more of a challenge. It's got to be hands-on. Someone's got to go through it and just pick the stuff that doesn't belong there. But it's not that hard. If it's laid out on a large floor, you can pull it back, go through a bunch of it, throw the stuff out that doesn't belong there. And we're talking about a full-time employee when it's open for, what's it open, 12 hours a week down there?
21.
Then you got another 19 hours, and you can sort stuff. You can sort while he's there, and you can sort otherwise. We estimate hauling 1 to 2 containers a week, that's it. One for, you know, once it's packed. Because you could also take your recycling now. That giant container squishes down, it doesn't even do half a cube. You know, so you can put a lot of cubes in a truck, especially if you use a trailer truck. And what Groton does do, we learned some things with their paper. If you make an agreement with one company to give them all your paper, that company gives them a trailer to put it in. They don't even do anything with it. They bundle it, they put it in the trailer, shut the trailer, come get it. They take it, they wait, they pay them. And so there's a lot of things you can set up, but these things take the year to set up. This is why I said it would be better to have the year. I think we could do it, and I think we should take it over. We have already seen the evidence that the revenue was there for us, and we can make some money off it. But to have time to, I mean, I drew a quick schematic down the DPW and say, here's a quick idea how to set it up. That's a 5-second guess how to set it up. If we spend some time looking how to lay it out, we can make it logical and easy for people to use. So they don't mind recycling, they don't mind separating the stuff, they understand it'll cost them less. And then if we can start to bring the sticker price back down, I think we get more participation. I think we'll make up in bag revenues what we lose in sticker sales by dropping the stickers $20 a price and start to get more people back in. But we have a year to do this stuff now, but what we're saying is we'd like to continue on this path towards next year and really see if we can make an effort to get into this. And that means
Research
talking
it
about
for the
this.
next year. I don't
Well, I
have a
done lot-
hassle with that.
I have done a lot of research, and I would be comfortable to set it up and run it if we had to. But what I'm saying is, we'd like to sit down with you guys and talk about the layout, talk about why it would be efficient, talk about what we'll do with plastics, how much we want to store before we start paying to throw it away. We could store 5 tons, 10 tons, 20 tons, or we could store nothing. If it's bundled, it takes up very little space. A half a ton is a 4x4 cube, it's not a lot of room. And we don't do that many tons. If we're doing 130 tons of plastics down there, plastic and glass combined, half of that's gonna be glass. We're only talking about 60 tons of plastic. You know, there's not that much. Half is sellable and half is not. So we're talking about storing maybe 20 or 30 tons of it, 20 cubes. It's not a lot. If the value doesn't come back, we can put a cap. We'll only store so many, then we'll start to throw it away and pay to bury it. And that's what you gotta do. But even at $70 a ton, it's $30 to bury a cube.
You're not gonna pay $70 a ton to get rid of it.
It's we pay for burying. You could probably, hold on. You could probably put those in the incinerator as well. Plastic may be something they can burn that gives them good energy for those in the incinerator.
That's something you'd have to check with Waste Management, because they own the incinerator.
Yeah, and we gotta look at the
No.
incinerator too, because from what I understand, Springfield's gonna close in not too long a period, so you'd hate to get into a contract with them to go to your landfill and bury your trash, and 2 years down the road, they close. And everybody's scouring for position in the
Maybe we
incinerator.
should think about putting an incinerator in.
I heard
Then
that
you
was-
could take it from
I-
all
I-
I got
towns.
shut down.
I heard that was offered years ago here, down to Reload and Storage in the town.
Yeah, we had a lot of fight against it.
But, yeah, obviously, if that can be done, if they're set up and they're set up to run clean, and that's the biggies, if you can't run clean,
They have
you know,
EPA
yeah.
regulations.
Those kind of things, you get a percentage in like the landfill used to, but you get way more revenue. The landfill used to turn out about $750,000 revenue for the town a year. Those would turn out $2 million revenue. And the trick is, if you get that kind of money and that works, you gotta start investing in things, and building up the stabilization, building up capitalization accounts for all departments to make their capital purchases and keep up with equipment and keep money stored and not just live off of it, you know. We still need to keep the tax base at a reasonable level, so people aren't just going too easy. But that'd be a great thing to have in the future, but that means getting a business to wanna be here in town, which is the other thing we talk about all the time. We gotta get businesses to wanna come here again.
I mean, you get so much a ton if we could put an incinerator in.
Absolutely.
And let them bring it in and burn it.
The incinerator could also just be enticing the right private investor to provide one.
What's that?
Have a private investor.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we don't wanna run an
Incinerator. Now we
incinerator.
just
Well,
get
no,
this
no.
That we don't want
property
to
You
do.
have a
tax
company come in
and the local agreement.
And we just get
From
the-
our transfer station to them to get a better price for,
And
you know,
maybe
things
that's
like
something,
that.
if you guys want, we could reach out through Andrew to some of the places that run incinerators and see if they wanna pick up more business and go somewhere else, cause they're gonna get overloaded. The landfills are closing. The incinerators can only handle so much. They can
That's
only put
right.
the trash into a certain rate, and they're gonna cut people off. That's what I'm saying. If we go somewhere, we wanna have an agreement with an incinerator now, before the landfill closes, cause we already wanna be on their list before people trying to get in, before they come in capacity. But yeah, if you talk to somebody about building here, what a great way for us to get more tax revenue.
I mean, if we could get an incinerator, we get the tipping fees, and Barre residents dump for nothing.
You'd have to really put some thought into where that's gonna go and how we don't really piss people off with trucks of trash coming in.
But the thing with an incinerator, you gotta have a good supply of water. And that's why that one got turned down years ago in town.
Well, the reload and storage always seems to flow pretty well down there, that water, doesn't it?
Did they just think they'd be taking too much and the effect of taking it would reduce the
Taking too much
downflow?
water.
I don't know, I'm guessing that probably had something to do with
But that was one reason why it got turned down. Because they didn't have the water, well, they had the water, but they didn't bring it.
And we're 20 years down the road from there too, so, you know, innovations and new technology probably may make them more efficient and need less water. It might not be such a big issue anymore. I would assume the water has more to do with the scrubbing effect than anything else.
Scrubbage, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't help burn, so I assume it's on the cleaning side, so you hopefully filters, ionization filters and things like that are getting better, so you need less on the water side.
That
it. Could also
just,
And
be the
also-
cooling of the,
Yeah, But also reclaiming water. I mean, you can reclaim and cool the water down here. Reclaim it, have it go through the radiator system, cool it off. You know, I'm sure you can spin turbines and generate electricity to pump water if you had to at the same time. I would bet the technology is way advanced from what it was, and I would bet water is not gonna be a big issue. But I'd be glad to look into that too. I don't think that's something that's gonna happen in a year or two. We're talking more like a 5-6 year plan to get somebody to design it and start building and get it done.
but we should plan for ahead for something like that.
And then we all have to have,
definitely keep our eyes open.
but then we also have to get the planning board in on this soon if we wanna think about that, because they need to start thinking about zoning and compliance and where it's gonna go.
Mr. Chairman,
It's something to toss around.
just food for thought on your thinking about developing an alternative plan that, from what you've been doing with the transfer station since Waste Management turned it over to you. One thing you have to think about is the transfer station as it was created was basically an appendage to the landfill operation. So as such, let's start with the Board of Health's basic guiding light in what created it and the parameters that allowed it to operate in the first place. It clearly was site assigned. Because of public input about concerns of having yet another facility taking in waste from places other than Barre, it was restricted by the site assignment to Barre residents and businesses only for solid waste. So at this point, no trash can come in to that facility unless there's a site assignment modification process. There's other things to think about. The town itself has not been an operator of a solid waste facility. There's a learning curve associated with that. It was discussed when the original RFP that brought in the contract operator was developed in the first place. There was consideration, what does it take for the town to become a solid waste facility operator? And you talked about licenses and employee training and coming to terms with all the requirements of a permit holder and a facility operator. All the contractual commitments needed to be developed, so there needs to be an inventory for all of that. Anyone in this business today running a facility or multiple facilities has a pretty considerable staff. I can speak to recycling facilities that I do inspections on. In Oxford and Auburn and West Springfield. And there are quite a few folks that work at those facilities to get the wasteman materials, the solid waste, the C&D, recoverable materials from C&D, and the recyclable containers, the things that need to be separated and get the contamination out of. There's quite a bit of mechanical and physical labor effort to accomplish that. So it's just something to think about. There's a lot to it. You've developed an approach here which allows a private company to come in and take all that risk away from the town itself.
Right.
And create an ability for the residents to readily get rid of all those materials. When I do inspections of municipally operated transfer stations without third-party contractors running them, typically what happens is, because one material or another has become a headache, either in terms of it's now costing them more than it used to, or the DEP has established new standards for its management. Sometimes the ability for residents to get rid of those materials is now eliminated, because you may find that where a town used to collect one kind of material, they don't anymore because they didn't get enough of it in to make it worthwhile, but somebody still wants to come with it. Well, we don't take it, and we're not taking that anymore. So you also have that risk of reducing its value to the residents by not taking almost anything they want to bring in when you rent themselves. Typically, what works for a small town, what I see most often, is that the town runs a transfer station, owns and operates a transfer station, but the management of the solid waste, the provision of the equipment in particular, and the responsibility for transporting it and disposing it somewhere according to applicable law, falls upon a contractor, someone in the business. I am not actually familiar with any place that I work with directly that's run by a town where they go and have bought the equipment, maintain the equipment, whether it's the Board of Health or DPW or a Board of Transfer Station Commissioners. They typically will hire that part of it out, the T&D for the solid waste. So it's the responsibility of that company to make sure that the material gets pushed into something and is taken away from the site and disposed of according to the DEP's requirements. So there are different ways to skin the cat, but what you're talking about doing in a year's time is a tall order, and there is a lot to consider, and possibly some modification of the permit. It's just that there's quite an inventory to sit down and work out, particularly where the Board of Health originally crafted this as a way for a facility to be run by a commercial operator. I mean, that's how it was originally intended, and that's how it's been to date, and it's a considerable change. But the volume of material that can come through there is restricted on the trash side, quite clearly in the site assignment, and by way of the permit that came from the site assignment that was transferred to the town from Waste Management, because there was no modification of that. So whatever Waste Management had, for timing's sake, in order to get that thing up and running when Waste Management closed the landfill, it just transferred without any modification to the Board of Health. And so you got to run it just like Waste Management would run it.
Which they're doing.
Yeah, and one important thing to think about, the DEP does not allow anybody to store recyclable materials to any degree for what they consider. They have an anti-speculative accumulation policy, all your transfer station permits, by way of the wording in the regulations, requires you to remove the materials from a transfer station within 60 days of start of accumulation. In fact, when I do inspections as a third-party inspector, I'm supposed to write them up. If they don't have marked on the side of a container, they don't have some kind of notation when they started to collect the material in that container, because the DEP has the authority to give you a compliance ticket, basically, if you're not moving that material within 60 days. They do not allow that material to be stored for commercial gain. That's not the intent of a transfer facility. It's to get it out of Dodge. You know, you collect it, you manage it, you accumulate it to the degree that you can get enough to truck out, to make the trucking out or movement out worthwhile, but they will not let that go on for past that 60 days. It doesn't matter who it is or what volume it is. That's their basic rule on that. So it's tough to build a storage area unless the only ones, if you are an actual permitted as a recycling facility, strictly a recycling facility, and there are such, you can store materials for longer periods of time. I just worked on a permit application that was granted by the DEP for a private company that's opening up in West Springfield, and it's a basically an excavating contractor, and they're going to be able to store processed asphalt, brick, and concrete materials and wood materials for up to 180 days. But it is strictly a recycling facility. It's not a trash transfer station or municipal facility like that. So, some things to think about.
Okay. Yes, sir. I mean, Matt.
On the lines of the requirements, the permitting, the licensing, things like you had mentioned, that many companies, because they're large and have either manage multiple sites or whatever, they have a lot of the administrative or supervisory support, not necessarily always on site, but assigned to that site. Is that defined in the permit, what's required, or is that something that the Board of Health could help us know what we need to, so if you were able to give us a list of these are the things you need to make sure are covered when you develop that potential insourcing plan?
Oh, sure.
Because we would need to include that, to include the cost factors and everything,
Sure.
or it's not a realistic.
Sure.
So if you guys could help us in that way, that would be a big part, because that's us making sure, again, we're meeting the regulations and requirements that are there, and also what you guys want. So as part of that, it kind of helps us say, all right, we got this covered here, we got this covered. That's something we still gotta figure out. And it would just be better so that if we really do spend a full year trying to put something together, and then we're not starting over again in a year.
As far as site assignment restricting it to bury trash, we can always rewrite the site assignment. That's simple enough. It was created originally to keep it restricted to bury, so
Well,
we have everyone coming in.
Board of Health can do the
Right.
site
We
assignment.
can request
That's what
from you
I'm saying.
to.
I'm saying, we're not just stuck like, oh my God, we
work
can't
that
take more.
process.
Yes.
If it becomes an avenue to make a better revenue for the town, we can consider doing that, which would mean, yeah, you have to rewrite this assignment to do that. Doesn't mean it can't be done, it just means there's something else to do to make it happen. As far as storing recycling, if need be, we can create a storage facility for it outside the transfer station and store it someplace. I'm sure there's a way to get a proper permit, which would be you guys' discretion, to create a storage facility someplace. Simply have a steel building or a shed.
Well, that
we
would be
store it.
something you'd have to check with DEP
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever
But
else.
it's-
So,
But once again, if you can't store it there for 60 days, if you wanted to store longer, if it was taking longer and you wanted to store longer, you make a storage site. I mean, these are not huge things to overcome.
That's the manifest and the signing of where it's at along the way, so I'm not sure it's as convenient as just build a storage building on another lot.
I think.
Because that may now have to be determined as a recycling center, so it can officially receive it from you.
that would be something.
I'm just saying,
Possibly.
there may be regulations that we might be able to do that, but we also have to do all these other steps to get to that.
And as we
So
said
I'm just
already,
throwing it out.
we want to cap our
Sorry.
storage at a certain amount anyways, or maybe that's what it is. You get 60-day supply, you get rid of it. You give yourself 2 months, if you don't get your price, you can get rid of it. And that's what we said at the
storage
beginning.
facility would have to be in a certain zone, would have to be zoned properly, it couldn't just be in any kind of residential
Right.
area either.
Right.
Which is industrial,
Once
very
again,
limited.
you know, same thing as anything we build in town, it's gonna be in the right zone for the right industry. Those things aren't a problem. As far as running facility, we're not talking about running something in the middle of Worcester and taking in 100,000 people. We're talking about, 1,700 people going there, 1,200 people going in now. It's very small. I would invite you all, if you'd like to go make a trip in Sea Groton's to see how a facility that's double the population of us and takes on 2 other towns' recyclings and does a major recycling there as well, see how simply they run it. I think it would give you a lot of ease to see how easily they run it and how easy it is to maintain. It's not this overwhelming, complex thing. They're no brighter than us. They went to the same schools we did. We're not dealing with a bunch of college graduates there. They're high school educated people like us, working stiffs like us, and they're doing a job. They've all learned it, they do it well, and we can learn it as well as they can learn. And I'd be glad to, get them to invite you guys out, anyone who wants to go see. I can talk to them and get a time and get you out there and look at the same stuff that we looked at when we went out. I mean, it's incredibly simplistic the way they've set it up. It's run basically, they run it with one guy. They use more just because they take this recycling in from other towns. They take so much recycling. So they use 3 people. One person sort of makes sure that people have their stickers and they come in and directs them if they have questions. Someone else is running the balers and someone's kind of making sure they put stuff in the right place. Because everybody likes to, we'll just dump the trash barrel here in the glass if no one's looking because it's easy.
Now, were they town employees?
Yep, they're all town employees. But, we can visit, you can ask them questions, we can talk to, their DEP rep was there with them that day we went out. DPW was there, and all 3 members that work the transfer station were there for us to ask questions and show us around.
But you also gotta remember, you're talking about a 40-hour week for Barry.
What do you mean?
Well, we said 21 hours. You said that'd give them other days to get everything sorted out.
If we're gonna put an employee, he's gonna be a 40-hour employee, so we can utilize him for other things. It's not like when the transfer station open, he has to get everything done. He can be help maintaining and making sure trash is going in the right place.
Yeah, but you're talking about the benefits, vacations,
Yeah.
holidays, you're talking about,
This is part of why I said it might be better under the DPW head later, because if you train one person that's really your overseer, of it, you can bring your part-time help in that we're gonna use, or maybe bring some of the DPW workers in as part-time and give other people trained. So you have vacations covered, and other things covered, like getting more than one person trained. We have they all drive trucks, so we have all the truck drivers, that's
now,
easy.
is DPW union too, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
They are,
So,
yep.
what kind of money is that?
Well, this could be attached.
That I don't know, I'm asking.
Well, right, and if you don't mind.
Yeah,
okay, 'cause
go ahead.
you're jumping in and then going, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, you get the answer. Maybe.
These are things we have talked about, but we also admit that we're at preliminary stages with numbers. We
Yeah.
estimated about $65,000 cost for a full-time employee right now, that'd be kind of like your lead foreman. We estimated certain revenues, and we've then revised some of those revenues to make it a little bit more conservative. And we were still looking at, again, this minimal look and saying, it looks like we're still showing a positive net revenue at the end of a fiscal year if we manage it that way. But with having a year, we can really really get into that. We can ask the questions of every detail of, all right, give me an employee that makes this much, add in all their benefits, tell me exactly if this
Bottom
is what that
line.
person's making, this is their impact to the tax levy.
I believe.
You know what I
that's
mean? And then we
what
can
it is.
really get some real numbers that way.
You need
And we
numbers
can do
that
similar
way.
with recycle, because now we're not trying to figure out answers in 4 months or 6 months, depending on how
That was
long
the
he's been
basis of
working
that
on
number I
it.
asked Andrew.
We've also got a whole nother year to see how things like this really affect the economy.
Right.
Or how much of it is staging versus the tariff and the international political stuff going on. Or how much of this is something we planned on doing anyway when it comes to just sorting at a tighter level. Because right now, we do just throw all the paper and cardboard in one, but if we start pulling paper and cardboard separately, maybe the cardboard revenues actually start to make up for some of the loss in the plastic. For now, I'm just saying, these are things that we really haven't put all those numbers down and said, on this date, this is what we got, 6 months from now, we re-reviewed, we got this for, so we're showing either a consistent number. So my thought is that's what we'll try to work towards as we build this, so it's April, it would be more convenient if it's next January, we're sitting here in front of you with a plan. Something that we think is like a final plan, but we have time now to go back and forth a little bit.
Yeah,
And then by March, maybe it's something like, oh, you know what? This might be something worth putting into the budget because maybe we think it's the right move for the town. If not, and not everybody's on the same page, because this isn't something you can really introduce if the regulating board really doesn't want it. Maybe we gotta look at it, find out the holes that aren't quite answered yet, spend another year and figure out if that's the difference. And maybe that other year is also us, as we budget our normal budget, we're now starting to create like a capital budget and a free cash budget and a stabilization budget. So maybe in a year and a half, when we suggest this is where the capital should go, should help us with initial investment on a couple things we think would be best to get optimum performance from this site. We kind of think we can start without the optimal and grow into it. So as certain little extra revenues come in, we buy a compactor, or rather than a whole bunch of containers, one of the things he had mentioned at Groton is it's not containers, it's like concrete corrals with a roof. So people are just dumping the paper, and then the loader comes in, dumps it into the compactor, bales it, and then they put it in a trailer.
Also, every
So
now
I'm
and then
just
the
suggesting
employer wants
these-
to
that's
fix it too, before it gets too.
The
built
different
up.
ideas, because now you're not talking about multiple containers, we're talking about using the land we haven't really developed there and setting up more of the recycle area with these staging areas of white paper, cardboard, clear plastic, colored plastic, clear bottles, whatever, you know.
Colored
And if we
bottles.
set it up like that, then maybe with the 40-hour guy, Wednesday, his day is to go empty all those corrals, start working on binding them and all that. Maybe a helper is not working just the Tuesday and the Saturday, but also one of those other days. And you can, but this is, I'm just talking like dreams right now. We gotta put that into a plan
Gotta-
and see if
that's
it
right.
works, so.
so for the time being, I think we should go ahead with this contract,
We
which is a
can't-
1 year.
Can't discuss that.
We're not talking about the
Well-
contract, we just wanna move forward with the RFP, which you saying you're going to, when is your next meeting?
Next Tuesday.
Oh,
And so we're,
What, the next?
when I talk to
Yeah,
Andrew,
start
because
the
here's the
meeting
problem with
Tuesday.
me.
Meeting?
I still gotta
It's
go
like-
to the clerk and swear in, so
Okay.
I can't make an official action.
Well, we can't
Yeah,
vote on
select-
nothing tonight
select-
anyways, we don't have the contract
But
to
I'd love to
sign.
get a
Right.
chance
Okay,
to
so-
get you guys to come visit Groton and see it. I mean, if you see it, it's easier to understand what I'm talking about, the setup. When you see it set up, you go, oh, wow, that is incredibly simple how they did it. It really, it is easy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna have time until
Yeah.
warmer
Okay,
weather,
so-
better
Oh, yeah.
weather.
We have to move
Warmer
forward
weather's
with,
better, but
we have to move forward next week with me, our board has to meet with their board, because we've gotta get the contract signed. They have to get stickers ordered, and they have to start to sell stickers relatively soon, so.
And technically, you could take your action today, because
no, they're not posted.
We
no,
can't,
no, they posted the meeting, they added an agenda. State law is kind of funny on when an agenda item can be added versus when a meeting needs to be posted. So
Okay.
technically, if they wanted to, because that's how they run their meetings, they could discuss and make a vote on the RFP.
we just gotta sign
Without
it,
us today.
yeah.
I'm
You're
just saying.
stretching the open meeting laws when you're not, this.
Andrew said it
this-
was all right for us to vote tonight, to
That-
move forward with going to meet with you to sign the contract. But
That-
if you
Well,
want.
not
like-
voting on the
We-
contract,
I'm
but.
No, we're not
this-
voting on the contract,
it
we're
was-
just voting to say, we accept this RFP, because that's the only one that's.
Yeah,
that's
and
what
why
we-
don't you just be accepting the
We're just
RFP?
accepting
That's
the
your action
RFP,
tonight, you're
right.
not
We're not
authorizing
voting
an
on
agreement.
the contract, right,
Right.
exactly.
So we, okay, Kathy first.
I just want to say, we have a town meeting coming up. Could we put on the warrant to see if there's people who don't want to take the transfer station over?
No, it's not even close to that.
We don't have enough information to provide them to make an honest judgment.
Oh, okay.
Just like here, we're talking about it, but we really don't have a good plan in place with good numbers.
You could put it on the warrant just to see if they're interested in.
Be
going
very
further?
irresponsible giving a realistic.
I wouldn't want to, because again, we're presenting it in a misinformed way. I think it's too early to ask them, do you want to, if we can't tell them why we think it may or may not be a positive.
Well, I think
If we have numbers through this process I was talking about that say, you'll make money, not just break even as the current contract is, people might be, you know what, well, explain better to me.
But until we
What's the
work
risk,
on it-
what's the benefit, but
Until we work on it, we can't give a better answer and get
I
closer.
don't see a
so.
benefit to presenting it on a warrant for a vote. That's more just us getting out in the field and talking to people and getting the feel from the people. I don't think it needs to be on an election or a town warrant platform at this level.
When we can put it out and say it's probably gonna, you know, it's gonna be, this is the revenue side and this is the expense side, and we can lay it out like that, pretty confident, then it can go on a warrant.
It's
People
gotta
can say
go-
it's worth it or not worth it.
It's gotta go on a
But
warrant
we're not to that point even close yet.
for the DPW. It's gotta go to a
If we-
town
if we-
vote
if
for
we want-
DPW
if
to
we
take
wanna
it
shift the
over, and then
license,
it's
yeah.
gotta go to the state.
Right. If we wanna shift the
That-
license, say that too. That's all, that's another discussion. If we do that,
All
we'll
right,
do that.
so,
We just, I think, the board wants to move forward with the RFP that was presented from solid waste and meet with the selectmen to discuss and sign the contract.
which is Tuesday night?
Yeah, Tuesday, because it's Patriots Day.
Holiday. Monday.
Oh, okay.
So our next meeting is next Tuesday.
All right, at what time?
When taxes are due.
We start at 6:30.
Okay.
I
I
believe it's
won't
still
be here.
6:30.
Make sure we're on the agenda.
I don't know
Yeah.
about the fact.
You gonna be
They're
here, Bill?
comfortable and you're comfortable with them carrying when you have to
Okay.
say that. I understand.
All right, so you wanna make a motion that we accept the RFP?
Yeah, whatever you just said.
All right, Kurt makes a motion to accept the RFP.
Whatever you say, he'll say.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Right.
All right, so we'll see you next Tuesday night.
Can I just ask a couple questions? I just want to get a little more information on the consultant. I'm just curious.
Sure.
What's your experience in the trash and the sleeping and all that stuff in general?
Okay.
Brief history of what
Sure,
you've done.
sure. Well, in case you don't know, I've been working as basically an agent for the Barre Board of Health since 2013. September 2013, I was retained to watch over waste management, including some inspections of the facility during its operating stage. But historically, before that, I actually used to work at Resource Control at the landfill. I was the director of engineering for that company for 5.5 years before they sold to United Waste Systems. So I'm very familiar with that piece of property down there. I worked down there in the 80s. I graduated from WPI in 1977, an environmental science degree, and I started working in consulting engineering firms, primarily in sanitary engineering, both wastewater and solid waste and waste site cleanup work. Worked for Cullen Engineering in Auburn for roughly 6 years. I worked for a company called Anderson Nichols out of Boston for 2.5 years, same kind of work. And then I worked for Huntley Associates, Elmer Huntley Associates in Northampton. Again, basically the same work. Worked there for about 3 years. Then I went to work for Resource Control as their director of engineering. And Resource Control was the predecessor, essentially, of Waste Management's landfill operations in this part of the state. They ended up becoming United Waste Systems and then sold off to Waste
Have you ever
Management.
run a facility on your own privately or been a partner in one?
Well, I'll finish my resume. So down there, I was intimately involved in all aspects, permitting, construction, until I became United Waste Systems. I went back into consulting for a year for a company called Geotrans, primarily having to do with landfills and basically contamination investigations. then I was, became
Is
part
that
of
more
it.
fail capping and water containment, things like that?
Yes, yeah. Mostly forensic type work like that. Then I was hired to become Director of Engineering and Operations for a company called BioSafe International. They held a U.S. patent for landfill reclamation. And I was involved in some a landfill reclamation project in Fairhaven, Mass. Essentially took over the running of that. And a lot of investigations of other sites like South Hadley landfill.
The reclamation process.
Digging the whole landfill, looking at digging the whole landfill up, sorting out all the materials. So I know a little bit about movement of materials, creating
So
volumes,
to reclaim the land or
consolidating
reclaim
them
it?
back, to start the landfill over again. And that's what happened there. So BioSafe became a company called Waste Systems International. Waste Systems International went on the stock exchange on NASDAQ. We had an infusion of capital. I became an officer of the company. And I was vice president of capital projects development there, involved in establishing new landfills or rehabilitating landfills, and siting and operating transfer stations in Pennsylvania, Vermont, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C.
Greg, can I ask you why you're asking him all these
Trying to
questions?
get an idea of what his history is and.
His history's good.
Yeah.
That's why he's here.
Then,
He knows more than anybody in town.
then I worked there for 6 years. The company expanded too quickly, and it filed for bankruptcy. As the person in charge of getting contractors to do work on projects, that was very unsettling. I left and took a position of landfill development coordinator for Casella Waste Systems, and worked in that capacity for 6 years. They then, in fact, I was involved with the acquisition by Casella of the Hardwick landfill, and I was also in the corporate officer who developed the contract with Colebrook, New Hampshire, to dig up part of that landfill and put in a groundwater recovery system and increase the capacity of that landfill probably 20-fold. And then they closed it off, and the town was, it's kind of an unusual project because the town got all the work done, all the costs went away. Kind of that privatization type approach was always keen in my mind, to try to save a town some money. So they got all that cleanup done that the state was going to make them do, and got a private company to basically pay for it in exchange for the capacity that was created. So from there, Casella reorganized. I was in my early 50s, and I figured I'm going to hang out my own shingle, and I've been that way for the last 11 years, and worked for a number of towns, private companies. Again, sanitary engineering and solid waste management, basically my
Why
specialty.
did Hardwick wind up closing? I saw that they expanded. You look at, they're also opening a new portion.
That's one of those. That's one of those warning tales. It was basically allowed to exist as it was when the Roaches ran it. Casella came in. Casella likes to get a little more out of their investment, and they proceeded to try to expand the capacity of the landfill in terms of tons per day and footprint, and met local resistance. Local resistance reached out to state and local opposition type organizations for support. They also had money, and they were successful in changing the hearts and minds of the townspeople, and they basically
the town was gonna
Just
pull the
deny
plug
the
on them, and they
expansion
got out
program,
while the
basically.
getting out was good. Yeah.
So you said you were, hired out the companies for the reclamation projects. Have you ever done any work with solid waste solution before?
Yes. Yep.
And to what end, what capacities?
I was involved as a permitting consultant for the contract that they now have with the town of West Springfield to redevelop that transfer station. That was a shuttered, long shuttered municipal transfer station, and I worked with the company to craft an approach with the town of West Springfield to reopen it. In fact, they built the land zone, the property is owned by the town of West Springfield, Solid Waste Solutions. It's a parallel company or subsidiary. It's called K&W Materials and Recycling.
So
That
you have a
runs it.
history with the company anyways? and the
Oh
owner-
yeah, I've done work for them.
the
Yeah,
companies.
and in fact, I currently do work. Every facility must have third-party inspections. That facility there requires four a year. Here in Barre, it's one a year. It depends on the capacity. So I'm a DEP third-party solid waste inspector. So I do those routinely for. It's an independent role. For instance, when I do them here, I'm doing them essentially for the town.
So you don't have any ownership or
Barre.
financial?
Oh, gosh,
interest in
no.
the companies at
No,
this point?
no,
Did you in the past, or
no.
just working for them?
Just working for them, assignment based. So I do the third-party inspections. That's pretty much all I do for them.
Well, you
I
certainly have a lot of
oversee
knowledge
that.
about all
I
these
oversee
things.
them in Hadley too, just for openness. They operate the Hadley transfer station. I do the inspections there under contract to the town, so I don't have any, if things go in, they have to live by what I say.
You certainly have a lot of knowledge in all of it, and you certainly were able to convey all the cautions and things that may concern us and intimidate and scare us from doing this. But given your knowledge, I'd hope you could use that to start offering us advice instead of there's the problems. It sounds like you're exactly the person to come up with solutions to some of these problems that you did point out and try to help us design our plan so we can present it to the town to see if it's feasible. Like we said, we've done a rough plan to come up with the financial end that looks okay. And if you clearly have a list of things that you see are cautions for us, I'd appreciate it, and that's up to you guys as your consultant. But what a better way to start to look into overcoming those obstacles, because he's gonna have more knowledge on those obviously than any of us will. So it's appreciate that you're pointing out the negatives, but I would also appreciate if you could try to find solutions for those, not just cast problems at us, but as a consultant, help us find ways around those to give us the best opportunity to design a plan that may work. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But I know it does in other towns. I think it can here. I think I'd like to see it work here, employ more people. And I'd love to see someday have an incinerator here that someone else runs, not us, and we can once again collect funds for revenues for things that are dumped in town. But that's location, that's development, that's compliance. It's a huge structure. Trafficking and stuff would have to be. We're talking not just us. We're talking trucks coming, through Brookfields or through Hardwick, where whatever, people are gonna have exceptions, which is one of the issues Casella had, and why the town wanted to close down there. They started restricting how the trucks could go into that facility, and they had to go all the way around about the town to do it, because the people were really upset. So
Oh,
before-
yeah, I remember that.
So before we think about it, we have to do it. And they got into their expansion down there, really before they were permitted, assuming they get the permit, and it didn't work, which was, sucked, because I liked using that landfill. But, when we start to do, if we do wanna, whether we do an incinerator, or we wanna modify our site plan to let other people come in, we have to consider where the trash is gonna come from, if we wanna restrict routes and things like that as well. So this is other things, I know, I'm just telling you, I know there's a lot to consider. To run it as it is, I think is pretty easy. To try to make more of it and make revenue from it, especially if we look towards an incinerator, is gonna be even lower. But if he can point out these problems to us, he's the perfect person to help us find the solutions for those problems, because he understands
He knows his
better what they
business.
have than us. So I know it's scary when he says all these things that we gotta look out for, But that means he knows what they are, and he can help us figure out how to get around them and how to take care of the problem.
They're just cautions. You're in a unique situation down there. For example, something I talked about before with Andrea is when the transfer station was created, all the property around it, except for the town road, was owned by Resource Control. Now that Resource Control has closed the landfill, and they've changed hands with the transfer station, where before the DEP requirement that you can't handle solid waste within 100 feet of a property line never really applied when Waste Management had it, because it was theirs and they were all around it. Now that changed, because Waste Resources now trying to peddle off some of the property. So you're all of a sudden, it's now the town of Barre. And when you talk about how can we use the site, well, all of a sudden we have, whoa, man, we may lose 100 feet over here that we always thought we had. So there's always something in a trap door in the regulations or in the approvals that have already been granted by the town in DEP that you gotta peel them all back and see what's in
I doubt
there.
the incinerator would be right there, it would be someplace close, but
Even
probably not right
developing
there.
the recycle corral might be.
Yeah,
like
just
you
to watch
said, you
the
can't
100
get
feet.
as far or beyond your boundary as you thought, like, or as close to your boundary as you thought, because
Right.
now all of a sudden you're encroaching on someone else's property.
Yeah, it depends where it
That
goes
used to
off
be the
of.
same
That's
property.
exactly right, exactly right.
But these are the things to look out for, we try to lay it out, these are the things we have a year to figure out, probably not much till after July, the budget's done, because that's the next crunch we'll have coming up for the next several months. We tried to get this up and running to a point that we could present it to you, and some of the questions and frustrations is why we go visit and why we're doing this stuff, because we had nothing to bring you before. We needed to go see how Groton did it, to see if it looks like it was doable, to let Jason look at it to say, is this easy enough to run, and understand what the guys are doing. We need to get some of their numbers on their volume per capita for people they have, for trash and for the recycles, and get some ideas of how they run their recycle. Because, you know, they've been at this for years, so they've figured this stuff out, so it's good to get a chance to pick their brains of people who have figured out ways that these things work for them. I never would have thought you'd get a guy to take your paper for you. They park a trailer, they fill the trailer, they take it away. All they do is pack it and push it in the trailer. That's a beautiful thing. There's different things like that. Like for their, they don't use packers for their trash, they use the live bottom trailer and haul it away. That's just the way they do it. So there's a lot of,
Thank you
lot
for
of
being
options.
with us.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
I'll see you next Tuesday night.
You got it?
You're right.
Okay, I'm invited, right?
You were, all three of you invited, except you.
Give us a chance
You
to
can't-
I might be able to make it, we'll see.
I
Get a chance
just
to
want
read
Greg
the book
to,
down
I want
now.
Greg to invite me.
You can't. His meeting
they're
still, until we
similar.
reorganize, you know.
I don't know if I can discuss the terms.
Well, Matt's
Shane
not even a
invited.
selectman.
I know.
Shane invited.
For
He's
what?
not even a selectman.
Next
You know, I'm so sworn in.
You're invited.
Okay,
Look
thanks.
at that.
Everyone's
Wants
invited
me
to our meeting.
to
We're friendly
elaborate on the
guys.
terms?
Absolutely.
But we're just accepting, maybe you can answer this.
Wanna come to
Because
our
I don't
meeting
want to say the
next week?
wrong thing.
More than welcome.
Yeah.
I might say get life while I was up there.
It's their proposal, so this is solid waste proposal.
It's just receiving a piece of mail at this point.
It's-
He wants to know if we can elaborate on the conditions or the proposal.
Exactly, what does it
It entails running the transfer station exactly the way it's.
As it has been. I
Exactly
think
how
that's a
they're running
safe
it now.
statement.
Nothing's really changed.
Unless it's labeled confidential, and I think it's gonna have to be public. Once we sign it, we will.
But that's not the contract, this is their
Yeah,
proposal.
yeah, it's
That's
not-
what they submitted as.
Yeah, it's not public yet, I don't think. And then if they
No,
label
no,
it-
it's a public document because opening bid open. It's been open
Right.
as an open bid.
Okay.
And that, once that happens, it's a public document on opening day. The minimum, I think it's the top three are public. I mean, it gets posted,
Right.
it's, these are the responses, so.
So
The
we can
proposal
discuss
is a
what's in it?
public document because it went through an open bid process and was open. It was a sealed bid process.
And you emailed it to
Well, that's the
Okay, I
other
just wanna
thing.
make sure I'm not saying.
Right. Once it became email, it's public whether you like it or not.
That's right.
Now it's been able to be
Okay,
redacted.
so
but-
they propose to run it exactly
we talked
how it's
about
being run, and they, for the next
Can
three
modify something.
one-year terms,
Yeah.
have kept the same cost, same pricing as they had in the original proposal.
So essentially, it's business as usual
Yep,
for another year with solid waste solutions.
Exactly.
Isn't
As far as-
Enough.
something that I need to say, oh, that's an okay exception.
I just
Scope
don't
item.
consider it right,
Yes,
strong
positions
thing.
added to the
Right.
agenda.
Okay, wait.
Oh,
We still have to.
agenda item.
approve
Make a
our-
motion to approve the minutes.
Minutes, Dan, Mike has a question, or wants to make a,
Oh, it sounds like you've got.
for landfill visit?
3 days notice. So people
Do you
come in
wanna,
and
is
say
that,
something if they
you
want.
wanna discuss that?
Because
We
they
want
did.
to, no, we can wait.
Yeah, no, I think we should, because
For their own
I,
sake, it's better off to-
I think it's a good idea. We haven't been on the landfill site, you know, in, it's gonna be over a year.
All right.
So I think we should request permission to have a walkthrough with whoever they've got in charge of it now.
Had to urgently.
This
Hey, if
spring.
you guys are gonna talk, can you go out and haul? I gotta hear.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
If what we asked ends up being beyond what you hired him for scope, just give us a heads up, so we know if it's something worth looking for funds for your support on what Greg was asking. Because I don't know what they hired you for, so I'm not assuming just because we asked.
Oh, you're
Oh,
gonna
no, well, he's gonna.
You know what I
send you
mean?
the
So
bill.
if it comes to that, well, that's, it might.
Charge them double
I
what
just-
we're
That's
paying.
why I'm asking, I don't want to make the assumption, because I know sometimes it's not what you asked them to do.
Fair enough.
Whatever the Board of Health would like me to do, I'm their solid waste consultant, so.
Okay,
Okay.
I just didn't want to make an assumption like we're asking you to do something that we didn't pay you to do.
Thank you. Okay, so can we make a request to whomever I reach out to, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Michael
that
still?
same, if it's that same guy, or, I would send it
I
to,
thought Michael was still around.
I will fire it out to whoever we've sent things before, Frank Sepio, Tom Murray, let them
Okay.
sort out who's gonna get back to us.
Okay, sure.
And then, I think it's important to have them know that the Board of Health hasn't disappeared, and we're still watching things, especially if there's, you know, an issue arises, that we're gonna look at things every now and then.
And you know that building's changed hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just one last thing.
Yep.
Okay. I'll reach out, I'll send an email.
And I believe I am already on the record that, my work for the town of Barre is through the Board of Health solely. Is the other issue, okay?
Certainly, certainly.
All right.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I think everything's fine, just gonna meet with the Board of Selectmen, we don't need Mark for anything.
No.
I think I don't think there'll be any discussion, it'll just be two comments.
Just gonna be signing and be
Yeah.
done with it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so I'll figure out our next meeting, let you know.
yeah.
All right, what's this violation stuff on here?
I put that on there in case we had anything.
Okay.
So May 14th, Mark,
Okay.
will be our next meeting.
Okay.
If there's anything, if there's not, just let me know, or I'll email you.
Yeah, just this topic.
See you, Kath.
Bye,
Thanks for
Kath.
coming.
See you
Good
later.
night.
Another guy that was here.
That's Donnie Griffin, our state rep.
Oh, it is? Huh?
Take care.
All right, thank you, see
All
you
right,
later.
see you later.
Thanks.
Okay, so, let's do our minutes and then we're done. Oh, we did have a question about, did you go by Vernon Avenue? Okay, all right, I don't know.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Remember we had an issue with Blavacus?
Yeah,
They're not there anymore, so.
they're gone?
As far as I know, I think the bank,
Everything just left there?
but if it's.
Who owns the house?
I think the bank took it back, so if that's the
The
case, then
bank
I
has
just
to
wait
clean
till
it.
the bank, sometimes it takes them a little while to get in.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't happen, we'll send a letter.
The rubbish is probably this high.
Well, I'm sure that's how they left it, they didn't care.
All right, another one is Andy Shepherdson on Wheelwright Road, right by the town line. We gotta do,
They,
He's in the hospital.
yeah, I think, the bank's foreclosing on that.
Did.
Yes, they did.
Well, I think the town's taking it.
Well, something's going on with that.
why would the town take it?
Taxes.
I think,
God.
the animals are gone though, right?
I don't
know.
know.
I think the
See?
well was gone. But I heard somebody was taking it, I didn't think we were, but that's why I just kind of put it on hold
I
because if
thought I
somebody
might
else
have
is
seen
taking
it
it
one
over.
time for foreclosure, but
I'll check.
I can't believe he owes anything on it unless the kids borrowed something against it.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't borrow against it.
Yeah.
But as far as the animals go, Chad got called into by the state to go down there.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they have feed, water, and shade, there's nothing you can do. He said there was no leaves on the street. The state don't care, that's a trade street.
For what animal?
But that's a
For the cow?
residential.
For that bull down there.
Yeah, because the cow, because there were goats there, but they had like a bus or
van.
something the goats were living in, but that was fine with animal control, it was sheltered.
Right, couldn't do nothing.
But this, yeah, right. Well, hopefully.
But I mean the places,
Yeah. Well, let me see
destroyed.
who owns it and where we stand with that.
huh?
Let me see who owns it and where we stand
All
with
right.
that, because if we're gonna take it or if the bank takes it, then we'll reach out to whomever.
And the bank was gonna have to clean it up to get rid of it, so.
Yep. Okay, so how about our minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes
For
from
Feb-
February 6th, February 21st, and March 12th.
Okay. First, second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I will be here for that meeting, I leave on the 18th. So,
Yeah, and I'm leaving the end of the month for a week.
oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, so when I get back.
The end of May.
Oh, I'm not, okay.
Where you going?
End of May.
Maybe I'm going to Florida for 8 days.
I'm going to Bermuda.
Good for you.
On what, the 18th?
The 18th to the 26th.
Me too.
Why, where are you gonna be?
Florida.
Yeah, where?
Oh,
Where's the big state?
We can make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay,
My legs, I said, I'm getting like you.
Kurt, can you second it? What is it?
I got to take my, get my cane up.